Brown. A brown people is a racial and ethnic classification. Like black people and white people, it is a metaphor for race based on human skin color. In racialist anthropology, the color brown and the term brown people were used to describe a series of hypothesized racial groups that included various populations from North Africa, the Horn of Africa, Western Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, North America and South America. In Brazil, brown people is a cognate term for pardo, a category used by racialist scientists. In the 18th and 19th century, racialist written works proposed geographically based scientific differences among the races. Many of these racial models assigned colors to the groups described, and some included a brown race, as in the following. Early German anthropologist Johann Blumenbach extended Linnaeus' four-color race model by adding the brown race, Malay race, which included both the Malay division of Austronesian, Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Fatani, Sumatra, Madagascar, Formosans, etc., and Polynesians and Melanesians of Pacific Islands, as well as Papuans and Aborigines of Australia. In 1775, John Hunter of Edinburgh included under the label light brown, Southern Europeans, Sicilians, Abyssinians, the Spanish, Persians, Turks and Laplanders, and under the label brown, Tartars, Africans on the Mediterranean and the Chinese. Quote, Jean-Baptiste Julien de Marlius d'Orloy's five-race scheme differed from Blumenbach's by including Ethiopians in the brown race, as well as oceanic peoples. Louis Figuier adopted and adapted de Marlius d'Orloy's classification and also included Egyptians in the brown race. In 1915, Donald Mackenzie conceived a Mediterranean a brown race, the eastern branch of which reaches to India and the western to the British Isles and Ireland, and includes pre-dynastic Egyptians, and some populations of Neolithic man. Eugenicist Lothrop Stoddard in his The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy, 1920, mapped a brown race as native to North Africa, the Horn of Africa, the Near East, Middle East, Central Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australasia. Stoddard's brown is one of five primary races, contrasting with white, black, yellow, and Amerindian. See map above. Due to what he considered the relatively close physical relationship between many populations, from the Red Sea as far as India, including Semites as well as Hamites, Grafton Elliott Smith conceived the brown race as a natural extension of Giuseppe Sergi's earlier Mediterranean race concept. In this popular conception, the brown race consisted of a joint Mediterranean Hamite-Semite grouping of ancestrally related peoples, into which Elliott Smith included the Proto-Egyptians. These and other racialist theories have been dismissed scientifically. As a 2012 human biology textbook observes, these claims of race-based taxonomy, including Kuhn's claims for Homo sapienation, have been discredited by paleontological and genomic research showing the antiquity of modern human origins, as well as the essential genomic African nature of all living human beings. Quote, subdivisions. In the 19th century, the notion of a single brown people was sometimes superseded by multiple brown peoples. Cuss mentions grammar in 1852 denying that there was one single brown race, but in fact several races speaking distinct languages. The 1858 Cyclopedia of India and of Eastern and Southern Asia notes that Keene was dividing the brown people into Quaternion, a western branch that he termed the Malay, a northwestern group that he termed the Micronesian, and the peoples of the eastern archipelagos that he termed the Maori and the Polynesian. Ethnic and racial identifier. The appellation brown people has been applied in the 20th and 21st centuries to several groups. Edward Tells, a sociologist of race and ethnicity, and Jack Forbes both argue that this classification is biologically invalid. However, as Tells notes, it is still of sociological significance, irrespective of the actual biological differences amongst humans, and of the actual complexities of human skin coloration. People nonetheless self-identify as brown, and identify other groups of people as brown, using characteristics that include skin color, hair strength, language, and culture, in order to classify them. Forbes remarks upon a process of lumping, whereby characteristics other than skin color, such as hair color or curliness, act as triggers for color categories, even when it may not be appropriate. Quote, ethnicity in South Africa. In 1950s, and later, South Africa, brown people were the coloreds, referring to those born of black-white sexual unions out of wedlock. The Afrikaans terms, which incorporate many subtleties of heritage, political agenda, and identity, are Bruin, brown, Bruins, browns, and Bruin-mens, brawn people. Some South Africans prefer the appellation Bruin-mens to colored. The South African pencil test was one example of a characteristic other than skin color being used as a determiner. The pencil test, which distinguished either black from colored or colored from white, relied upon curliness and strength of hair, i.e., whether it was capable of retaining a pencil under its own strength, rather than upon any color factor at all. The pencil test could trump skin color. Steve Biko, in his trial in 1976, rejected the appellation brown people when it was put to him incorrectly by Judge Boshoff. But now why do you refer to people as blacks? Why not brown people? I mean, you people are more brown than black. Biko, in the same way as I think white people are more pink and yellow and pale than white. Boshoff, quite. But now why do you not use the word brown then? Biko, no. I think really, historically, we have been defined as black people. And when we reject the term non-white and take upon ourselves the right to call ourselves what we think we are, we have got available in front of us a whole number of alternatives. And we choose this one precisely because we feel it is most accommodating. Penelope Oakes characterizes Biko's argument as picking black over brown, because for Biko it is the most valid, meaningful and appropriate representation, even though in an individualistic decontextualized sense it might appear wrong. Oakes' emphasis. This contrasts with Pete Watholder, fictional protagonist of the satirical column Straatpraatjes, whose actual author was never revealed but who is believed to have been Abdullah Abdurrahman. That appeared in the Dutch Afrikaans section of the newspaper APO between May 1909 and February 1922. Watholder would self-identify as a colored person, with the column targeted at a colored readership, introducing himself as N. van der Ras, a member of the race, and characterizing himself as a Bruin-mens. Pardos in Brazil. In popular use, Brazilians also use a category of Moreno M, Morenu, Morena F, Moren, lit. Swarthy, from Moro, Portuguese for more, which were perceived as people with darker phenotypes than indigenous Europeans. So a Moreno or Morena is a person with a Moorish phenotype, which is extremely ambiguous, as it can mean dark-haired people, but is also used as a euphemism for pardo, and even black. In a 1995 survey, 32% of the population self-identified as Moreno, with a further 6% self-identifying as Moreno Claro, light Moreno. 7% self-identified as pardo. A comprehensive study presented by the Brazilian Journal of Medical and Biological Research found that on average, white Brazilians have greater than 70% European genomic ancestry, whereas black Brazilians have 37.1% European genomic ancestry. It concluded that the high ancestral variability observed in whites and blacks suggests that each Brazilian has a singular and quite individual proportion of European, African and Amerindian ancestry in her mosaic genomes. Thus, the only possible basis to deal with genetic variation in Brazilians is not by considering them as members of color groups, but on a person-by-person basis, as 190 million human beings, with singular genome and life histories. Hispanics in the United States. Judith Ortiz-Cofer notes that appellation varies according to geographical location, observing that in Puerto Rico she is considered to be a white person, but in the United States she is considered to be a brown person. Quote, see also, bronze race, colorism, melting pot, olive skin. Further reading. Alexander Winchell, 1890. XX. Genealogy of the Brown Races. Pre-Adamites. Or, A Demonstration of the Existence of Men Before Adam. S. C. Griggs and Company. XVIIASEQ.